Over brunch cocktails, my mother whispered softly, "Don't confuse being present with being cherished." My aunt gave a quiet chuckle. My brother flashed a cunning smile. I managed a weak grin, left a generous tip, and slipped away silently. 2 weeks later, I closed our shared account, sold my portion of the family property, and blocked all their transactions. My cousin texted me asking why everything was getting rejected. The family group chat exploded. Then a call came that changed everything. Sunday brunches were once my favorite. Not for the pricey dishes or sparkling drinks, but because they let me pretend we were a true family. I'd arrive early, cover the bill, handle reservations, even pay for parking. No one asked me to. No one thanked me either. It was simply assumed I'd take care of everything, as always. That morning, the sky was overcast, but the rooftop venue was lively. My mother had picked the place, calling it elegant yet sophisticated, which meant expensive and picture-perfect. I sat alone for 20 minutes, the server hovering nearby, probably thinking I'd been ditched. They arrived together, Mom, Aunt Laura, Ethan, and Mia, laughing like they'd just left a private joke I wasn't part of. Mia barely looked up from her phone. Ethan high-fived the server. Mom adjusted her sunglasses despite the cloudy sky, and Laura asked loudly about the bottomless cocktails like it was her main concern. I ordered for everyone, as usual. Halfway through the second round of drinks, I said something cheesy like, "It's great to have us all here," trying to break the uneasy silence as they scrolled their phones. That's when Mom leaned in, her glass glinting, and murmured, "Don't confuse being present with being cherished." I froze, unsure if I'd heard correctly. But then Aunt Laura snickered like it was an inside joke. Ethan smirked. Mia's thumb paused on her screen for a moment, noting the exchange. I sat there, stunned. For years, I'd been their lifeline, covering overdrafts, paying Mom's mortgage when she was short, bailing Ethan out after he lost money in a shady investment, funding Mia's tuition when her grants fell through. They knew all of them knew. But in that moment, they made it clear. My presence was optional, my value tied to what I provided. To them, I was just there, useful, expected. So I smiled, stayed quiet, finished my drink. I left a big tip, more than the server deserved, but someone needed kindness that day. I stood, muttered about a work call, and left. They didn't follow. No one checked if I was okay. 14 days later, I began cutting ties. First, the joint account. It was meant to be a shared safety net, but I was the only one contributing. Mom used it for essential spa visits. Ethan siphoned cash like it was his right. Mia drained it for emergencies, like the time she spent $400 on a pet therapist because her dog seemed off. I closed it, transferred the balance to my personal account, and secured it. Then came the family lake house. My name was on the deed. I'd paid 60% of the cost. They treated it like a free getaway. Weekends, holidays, last-minute trips. I'd stock it, maintain it, pay the taxes. They'd show up and complain about the internet. I hired a lawyer, had it valued, and sold my share to an outside buyer. No warning, just papers signed. Next, I canceled all shared services, cloud storage, streaming accounts, the family phone plan. I sent them their final balances with a note. Set up your own. 3 days later, Mia texted, "Why's everything declined?" I didn't reply. The group chat went wild, confusion, then anger, then demands. Is this a glitch? Dan, what's with the account? Why can't we access the lake house? Did the streaming password change? They weren't asking because they missed me. They were asking because they couldn't use me. Then panic hit. Ethan messaged privately. "Hey, no idea what's going on, but can you spot me till next week?" Mom called 3 times in a row. Aunt Laura sent a vague text about how family is everything, and you don't abandon your own. Mia sent a string of question marks as if that would unlock the funds. I blocked them all. 2 days later, a call stopped me in my tracks. It wasn't Mom, Ethan, or Mia. It was Uncle Tom, who I hadn't spoken to in nearly a year. He never asked for anything, never showed up to brunches, never played the guilt game. He distanced himself from the family chaos long ago. I answered. He skipped pleasantries. "They're planning something, Dan," he said, his voice steady but weighted, like he was warning me of an approaching storm. He said Ethan was asking around, trying to find a way to contest the lake house sale, even talking to a lawyer about challenging it. Mia was spreading stories that I'd hacked her accounts and ruined the family. Aunt Laura was whispering that I'd lost my mind, maybe joined some strange group. But Mom, she was telling everyone, cousins, her book club, her church group, that I'd always been troubled, that she was praying for my healing. Tom didn't sugarcoat it. "They're not just upset you pulled back. They're rewriting the story to make you the bad guy. You gave them everything, and now they're angry you've stopped." I listened, phone pressed to my ear as he laid it out. The manipulation, the fake concern, the way they twisted the narrative to paint themselves as victims. Then he said something that hit hard. "You're not wrong for walking away, Dan. You're finally seeing clearly." It stung because I'd been doubting myself. Was I too harsh, overreacting, cutting off family over money? But I knew it wasn't just the money. It was how they diminished me while I supported them, smirked when they took, sighed when I hesitated, whispered that my presence didn't equal worth, as if I hadn't learned that lesson every time they brushed me off. Tom offered to help if things escalated, said I could crash at his place if I needed a break. He'd been there, he said, not with money, but emotionally. "Leaving family isn't the hardest thing I've done," he told me. "It was the most necessary." That night I started untangling every remaining connection. Mom was still a cosigner on an old car loan. I removed her. Ethan had access to a shared cloud drive with sensitive files, tax records, ID copies. Revoked, passwords changed, bank permissions double-checked. I sealed every gap. Around midnight another call came. Not Tom, it was Mia from a blocked number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. She was crying, frantic. No greeting, just, "I need money now, my card's not working. I'm stuck at this hotel and they're going to kick me out." I asked where she was. She hesitated, then mumbled, "Vegas." I stayed silent, listening as she rambled about being stranded, her friends bailing, her phone dying. She needed $500 wired to get home. I hung up. A minute later, she texted, "You're cruel, I'm your family." Then, "You can't do this." And another, "Everyone's against you, you'll regret this." I stared at the screen, waiting for guilt, anger, anything. Nothing came, just calm. The next morning, the group chat was gone, deleted. I was blocked by all of them. That should have been the end, but it wasn't. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived from a law firm I didn't recognize. My stomach dropped just seeing the return address. A small office in Burlington I'd never heard of. Inside was a legal motion from Ethan, challenging the lake house sale, claiming I'd sold it without family consent and acted under emotional distress, possibly due to mental instability. I read that line twice. Attached was a statement from Mom, typed, signed, notarized. She wrote that I'd become increasingly erratic over the past year, making impulsive financial decisions and cutting myself off from family support. She described events that never happened. Late-night calls where I allegedly ranted, texts where I accused them of betrayal, threats to sever ties forever. It was fiction, but it hurt because it echoed how I felt, twisted just enough to make me seem unhinged. No mention of the mortgage payments I'd covered. No word about the overdrafts, the car repairs, the medical bills I'd helped with. No trace of the brunches, the cocktails, the silence I endured while they took. I didn't call her. I called Tom. He answered without a hello. "They made their move," I said, telling him about the motion, the letter, Mom's statement. I could hear him shift, probably reaching for the cigarettes he swore he'd quit. "They don't just take," he said. "They rewrite the past to make you look crazy for stopping." It clicked. This wasn't about the money or the lake house anymore. It was about control, about punishing me for stepping out of line, for refusing to be their bank. They needed me to be wrong, unstable, so their story held up. I hired a lawyer, a sharp one. He read the documents and gave a dry laugh like he'd seen this before. "Got proof of what you've given them?" he asked. That question stung. I hadn't kept records, not really. A few payment receipts, some emails, but most of it was informal, handshakes, promises, trust, because they were family. That word used to mean something, not anymore. The legal process moved fast. My lawyer filed a response, pulling together what evidence I had, bank statements, texts, transfer records. Every dollar I'd given became leverage. Meanwhile, the family's silence broke. Ethan emailed, "This isn't personal, you forced us to act." Aunt Laura posted a vague update about watching loved ones fall into chaos. Mia unblocked me just to DM, "Just apologize and fix this. You're not the victim." Mom stayed quiet, but her yoga friend, Karen, who once asked if I was dating anyone at a family barbecue, messaged me on Instagram with a scripture verse and a hint to find my way back to love. Love. I was done with love. I was done giving them the benefit of the doubt. I sent one last group chat message, unsure if they'd even see it. "You win, you get your way, the court can decide." Then I left it. 2 weeks later, the judge dismissed the motion. No standing, no evidence. The lake house sale held. I was in the clear, but it didn't feel like a victory. They'd declared war and I wasn't done. The quiet after the ruling wasn't peace. It was the calm before the next strike. I underestimated how far they'd go. A week later, I tried logging into my personal bank account, not the shared one, my own. It was locked. A red alert, suspended for suspected fraud. I called the bank. After an infuriating wait, they said a third party had reported suspicious activity. The claim pointed to a transfer I'd made 6 months ago, moving money from a family investment account I'd funded and had every right to close. My gut screamed it was Mom. She still had access to an old joint savings account from when I helped her buy her condo. I'd never fully disconnected it. The freeze lasted 48 hours, but it was enough to disrupt everything. My rent payment bounced, my credit card locked. I missed a doctor's appointment because I couldn't pay for the ride. Then came the email from work. Subject: concerns about recent legal issues. An anonymous tip had sent them a doctored article claiming I was an unstable consultant with a history of financial misconduct. It wasn't real, just a convincing fake with my name, photo, and title. HR wanted to talk. I sat in their office, explaining something that sounded ridiculous. My own mother, brother, and cousin fabricating stories to discredit me because I'd stopped funding their lives. I had no solid proof of who sent it, but the timing screamed their names. My boss believed me. HR was skeptical but dropped it. Still, the damage lingered. Coworkers' sideways glances, hushed conversations, the shift in how people saw me. That night, staring at my ceiling, I realized they weren't fighting to win anymore. They were fighting to ruin me. I called Tom, told him about the bank, the job, the fake article. He didn't ask for proof. "They're unraveling," he said. "This is what desperation does. You were their anchor and now they're turning on each other." He was right. The next day, Mia sent me a screenshot from their new group chat, one I wasn't in. Ethan was blaming Mom for going too far with the fraud claim. Aunt Laura called Mia a traitor for not picking a side. Mom wrote clear as day, "He was never really one of us." Mia added no context, just one line. "I didn't think it would go this far." Then she blocked me again. That was the last I heard from them. Until the night someone tried to break into my place. It was just past midnight. I was dozing on the couch, a glass of bourbon sweating on the table, the TV droning some documentary I wasn't watching. A knock at the door, soft, almost polite, but it kept going. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more, same rhythm. My pulse spiked, steady but sharp. I lived in a safe area, a secure building, but something felt off. I checked the peephole. Empty. Then a knock came from the back, the fire escape. I froze. I don't remember grabbing the kitchen knife, but it was in my hand. I crept to the window, staying low, and peeked through the blinds. A shadow stood there still, facing the glass, not trying to enter, just watching. I backed away, called 911, gave my address, said someone was on my fire escape. The dispatcher told me to stay put. Cops were nearby. By the time they arrived, the figure was gone. Nothing stolen, no forced entry, just a cigarette butt on the railing. The officers took my statement, asked if I had enemies. I almost laughed. "How do you explain your family?" I didn't name them, no proof, no cameras, no prints, but I knew. The next morning, a text from an unknown number. "You don't get to walk away clean." That was it. I changed the locks, installed a camera, filed a police report with the messages, the fraud claims, the screenshots. They took notes, said they'd investigate, but I knew it wouldn't go anywhere. You don't jail people for being cruel or cunning, not without hard evidence. I didn't want revenge anymore. I wanted peace, distance, silence, so I made the final break. I wrote one email to Mom, Ethan, Laura, and after a moment, Mia. Subject: done. The message: "You've won, you've broken it all, including me. Whatever we were, it's gone. Don't reach out again." Then I blocked them. Phone, email, everything. Every tie severed. Tom called a few days later, said they were scrambling. That word had spread through the family network. Mom was playing the victim, telling everyone I'd abandoned them for no reason, that I was unstable, a danger. Then he paused. "You won't like this," he said. They were throwing a family reunion without me. Photos flooded social media, smiles, hugs, laughter like nothing had happened. One image stood out. A banner across their backyard fence, bold letters reading, "Family first." But they didn't know what I was planning. They didn't expect what came next. Because I did something I never thought I would. I forgave them. And I gave them one last chance. The very last. A month after their staged reunion and smug photos, I reached out. No explanation, just a message in the old group chat, untouched for months. "Let's meet. One time, talk it out." I chose a quiet Italian restaurant downtown. Neutral ground, private booth. I arrived early. They showed up like it was nothing. Grins, hugs, casual jabs, dressed as compliments. Not one apology, just chatter and subtle digs. I let them talk themselves out. Then I laid it all bare. What I'd done for them, what they'd done to me. The fraud claim, the job sabotage, the fake concern. They squirmed as the room grew still. Then I offered something they didn't see coming. One final gesture. A trust fund. Monthly deposits for a year. No contact, no strings, just support from afar. A clean break. They agreed instantly, signed the papers without hesitation. I left the restaurant thinking maybe they'd understand. 2 weeks later, the trust was drained, every cent gone. Accounts traced to Ethan, Mia, and a shell company in Mom's maiden name. They didn't even try to hide it. No calls, no texts, just silence waiting for my reaction. I didn't give them one. I pressed charges, froze the assets, cut them off for good. No confrontation, no speech. Just a locked door and the sound of my footsteps walking away, finally, without turning back.